Hello everyone, today I'm going to present to you Legendary Valor, a real-time strategy game in which players take control of one of 5 playable races, each with its own unique warriors and backstory. Created by Durquoise Dwarves, the game takes place in a land where years of conflict and turbulent relations has led to the races of the Tengu, Merfolk, Kitsune, Nord, and Hobgoblins waging all-out war against one another. As the game begins, players will choose one race to take from humble beginnings to powerhouse warlords that dominate the world of Terraland. Because play will take place in real time, players will have to think on their feet as they engage in battles ranging from land to sea and even the sky. They will continuously build their nations as they destroy their rivals and rebuild after large attacks. If a player is successful in destroying all of their enemies, they will be victorious. In order for players to become invested in their civilization as it progresses, the decision to create 5 unique races was important to the Durquoise Dwarves team. Not only did it allow for more players, but it also enabled players to develop loyalties to each race, further immersing them in the gameplay. By creating resource management centered around 3 distinct supplies, players will not only have to undertake managing their armies as they grow, but will also have to employ forethought in their decisions if they hope to be successful. Because of Legendary Valor's violent content and calculated gameplay, an audience of teenage to adult will be the target demographic. This will allow the necessary strategy, resource management, and combat-oriented nature of the game to remain challenging, while still accessing a large audience which can be engaged and learn as the game becomes more demanding. In order for the game to retain usability in its fast-paced elements, a keyboard and mouse will be the most applicable interface, making PC the target platform. Legendary Valor's combine mechanic is implemented through the merging of 2 base units to create stronger heavy units. This is incorporated with the disperse mechanic, as some units are only available through combinations. In order for the modify mechanic to be accessed, players must first combine units, which in turn create a heavy unit with the modify mechanic ability. This mechanic is initiated by the player holding down Alt and selecting the 2 single units and then clicking the upgrade button. Implementation of the modify mechanic is executed through a particular heavy unit ability to apply conditions or debuffs to enemy units and/or buildings. This mechanic is incorporated with both the disperse and combine mechanics to allow players the option of attacking enemies with conditions rather than just brute force. If conditions are applied to buildings, this is also incorporated with the steal mechanic to allow espionage units greater ease of enemy penetration. To modify an enemy's unit, left-click the enemy that is near your capable heavy unit. If the option to debuff the enemy appears on top of the enemy, you will know that that specific heavy unit is capable of debuffing. Click it to debuff the enemy. The steal mechanic is implemented when the player chooses to use the espionage unit to loot resources from enemy players. This mechanic enhances the disperse and gathering mechanics by lowering the amount of resources players can collect, steal, or spend. In the storyboard above, the espionage unit is shown sneaking into an enemy storage building and stealing some of their resources. If the player wants to steal from an opponent, they must first select their espionage unit by left-clicking it, then right-click on the enemy's storage building. The disperse mechanic is implemented through the ability to buy and destroy units. Players will engage in a balancing act regarding their resources when purchasing, gathering, and destroying units. Depending upon their choices, they will lose resources when building or gain resources when destroying units, thereby also removing the unit's upkeep cost. The win-lose mechanic is Legendary Valor's end-game condition. The condition is met once a player is able to destroy 75% of an enemy's assets, removing that player from the game. This destruction takes place through strategic battles and continues until one player is left standing. This is incorporated with all other mechanics, as it may not be met unless the other mechanics are utilized. Whether fighting the computer or other participants, players will also win and lose battles when engaging in combat. The secondary mechanics of Legendary Valor are combat, resource gathering, and time. The combat mechanic will be implemented when one user attacks another user's unit or building. Resource gathering is implemented from the beginning when the grunt for the specified race picks up one of 3 resources and brings them back to the storage building. Time mechanic is implemented when you are building new units, constructing buildings, and moving across the map. Legendary Valor is similar to other real-time strategy games such as StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, and Black and White 2. Combat and endgame conditions are handled much the same as these games, but what is unique about Legendary Valor is its core mechanic. In order for players to advance, they must combine base units in order to create harder-hitting heavy units. A basic user interface will relay all relevant information to the player while still sustaining a large amount of screen real estate to highlight the game's graphics. By docking the different menus in the corners of the screen, this will allow players to maintain their awareness of the battlefield and their base of operations in the 4 cardinal directions. Each race will retain all of its available resources and storage buildings, which must be protected from their enemies. Storage building unit will house a maximum capacity of resources before players will be required to build more. Each race will consist of specific color schemes to keep them readily recognizable at a glance, while also allowing each unit to be unique in its appearance. This will create ease of use while players navigate their ever-changing civilization and army while remaining ever vigilant against the encroaching enemy forces. Legendary Valor aims to be the next big real-time strategy that will challenge players, keep them engaged, and allow them to develop loyalties to their chosen race. By creating mechanics that players are familiar with while adding new mechanics, Legendary Valor will create a new and exciting experience for strategic players worldwide. Thanks for watching.